Hello everybody, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we are on the ground at London Stansted for a tutorial on how to fly the PMDG 747. So this is obviously PMDG 747-400. It's the 747 version 3, Queen of the Skies 2, and very high quality aircraft for prepared version. Well, this is prepared version 4, but it's available for pretty much every major sim apart from Microsoft Flight Simulator. However, I am sure that it will be added at a later date to that sim. So on the ground here at Stansted, and we're going to be flying to Prestwick today for our tutorial. Now, this is a fictional route, and I've also given it a fictional call sign to boot. So that is Speedbird 9 or 8 Sierra Papa. Sierra Papa standing for Stansted Prestwick, because why not? Makes sense. So this episode, or this part of the series, tutorial series, I'm going to be showing you how to set up the aircraft, how to set up the FMC, what data I enter into the FMC, where I get that data from, various charts and departure procedures. Also, well, showing you the arrival and departure procedures, so departure procedure out of Stansted and the arrival procedure into Prestwick. I'll be entering all that and more into the FMC, the flight management computer. And yeah, so the aircraft is currently in a cold and dark state, all the displays and systems off, so we want to change that, of course. So we're going to come up to the overhead display, or the overhead panel, right click to remove the battery cover, left click to turn the battery switch on, and then the battery switch should have closed automatically there. So as you can see, we've got the external power unit outside connected up to the aircraft already. So all that remains is for us to enable the available external power 1 and 2, and we need to check if the windshield wipers are off, which they are, and the electrically driven hydraulic pumps are off as well. The engine driven hydraulic pumps can stay on, as they'll come on automatically when the engines are started, but that is for a later part of this series. So we also need to check the landing gear levers down, which it is here. So the first thing we want to do here is basically enter how much fuel we want to take on this journey. So we come down to the FMC here, the flight management computer. I guess you can call it the CDU, the control display unit, which is basically, until we click FMC here, we're in the CDU. So we want to go into FS actions here. So the fuel is here, and it's in kilograms as we want. In Europe, aircraft fuel is measured in kilograms. So I have set up a flight plan with SimBrief. It's very simple to do, and I've created an OFP, and that allows me to have all my data in one place. It's very easy to create a flight plan in SimBrief. I may make a future tutorial on that, but you basically just type in your airport code, your aircraft type, call signs, and you can just press create flight plan. It'll create a very realistic, accurate flight plan. You can select a cost index as well for fuel efficiency reasons. So yes, so according to the flight plan, it's 21,480 kilograms of fuel we want to take with us today. And we want to take a zero fuel weight on board, so we just go into payload here. of 220.1 tons. Just cross-check that, and that is true. That is the desired amount. So, fuel and payload is as required, and so we want the position lights to, or the navigation lights in this case, to be turned on. So as you can see, we've got navigation lights on the wings here. Which basically, on the ground, they just basically show to people on the ground that there's someone in the aircraft setting it up. So we want to change the unit of pressure here to HPA, hectopascals, as measured again in Europe and other areas, but certainly Europe as well. It's different in America. We use, well, I don't live in America, but over there they use inches of mercury as the pressure units. So we want to come back to the overhead, and we basically want to enable the IRSs, but before that, of course, we want to set standby power to auto. It's very important. So for each IRS, so the IRSs are basically the inertial reference systems, so it basically allows the FMC, the flight management computer, to determine where the aircraft actually is in the world in terms of coordinates, and of course that's very important. So we want all three of these to go to nav, so we right click twice, align and then nav, align and then nav, align and then nav, and these will take a little while to get going. As we can see, the navigation display and the primary flight display here, they do not have all the data we need. However, that is normal at this stage because it takes them a few minutes to get going, and then all our inertial data will be present. So back to the overhead. There's just a few remaining checks. To complete. The yaw dampers are on, basically allows us to taxi well. And packs are off. The fuel pumps will come on in a little while, as will the window heats. One thing we can do is do the fire tests, so fire overheat test, so we can test the engine, we can basically test the engine fire alerts. All four of these are working, and the engine slash APU as well as the cargo holds are all working well. The emergency exit lights can be armed. And again, the temperature displays are at 12 o'clock position. Pressure, pressurization, everything is as it should be at this stage. So now we want to come down to the CDU, which is a control display unit, and we want to go to FMC now. So nav data is out of date, but that's okay for this sake of this flight. I've already checked, and all the waypoints are fine, and our route is very much valid for the previous AirRack system, which is from a little while ago now. But for sake of a simulation, it's okay. So we want to go to pause init, so position initialization, so you can start putting in the initial piece of data. The airport Echo Golf Sierra Sierra Stansted is already punched in here, but we would just, if that wasn't there, we would press the left soft key here. And so that we're at gate 12. I don't think it will work because it didn't last time when I was just previously doing a, I guess, sort of pre-run of this setup. I already put the airport in here and the gate didn't work either, so we want to go to next page and we can basically take the GPS left position and that will go into our scratch pad here. We take that and we insert that into set IRS position, so now the aircraft knows where we are. So we go to route, so it's Echo Golf Sierra Sierra Stansted as our origin airport, and we're going to Echo Golf Papa Kilo as our arrival, our destination, which is Prestwick up in Scotland, and it's BAW Bravo Alpha Whiskey, or call sign Speedbird, and I've gone for 908 Sierra Papa, again fictional call sign, well I believe it's fictional anyway. Company route is basically if we exported our flight plan into a file format, and we would basically just type in the name of the file and we'd get an automatic route into the next page. Of course we are going to put that in manually because I want to show you guys how exactly you insert this route. And it's runway 22 out of Stansted, and according to Active Sky, that is correct. That is the runway still in operation. So you want to go to the next page and departure and arrival for the standard instrument departure procedure. So it's runway 22 and it's the Utava 1 Romeo departure procedure, so that's here. It's basically the procedure that takes us from takeoff to our first waypoint, which is Utava, and then it's, for those of you that aren't familiar with the way an aircraft route works, go to back to route here, and so basically the way an aircraft route works is the aircraft takes off, it follows a procedure. Sometimes it goes directly to a waypoint, which is basically an area, just a point in the air, used, an aeronautical point in the air, used, not physical, although there sometimes are physical stations on the ground called VORs, which can be used for navigation and can almost be called, almost can be adopted as waypoints for basic parts of the route. So sometimes you go straight to a waypoint and you travel along airways to get to waypoints after you've reached your first waypoint. So after Utava, it's the Quebec 75 airway, and that's going to take us all the way to Bazad waypoint, and then it's the Tango 420 airway, and that will take us into the Trent VOR. VOR, as I touched on, it stands for VHF, omnidirectional radio range. It's basically, it sends radio waves, I believe, to the aircraft, and if the aircraft tunes into the frequency of the VOR, it can be used for navigation in the event that the instruments were out of operation. And the VOR basically comes with distance measuring equipment normally, DME, which gives you how many nautical miles you are from that point, and you can set the course as well to basically travel towards that VOR. I've not done a lot of VOR navigation myself in the sim, it's mainly instrument stuff I use, and that's what I'm going to be doing for this flight. This is normal procedures, especially as both the airports in today's video come equipped with an ILS, and the 747 here has perfectly operational instruments. So the next waypoint is Trent, as I touched on, our VOR station. And the way, basically, the convention in the FMC, it's Upper November 57 by the way, as our next airway. The airways, the departure procedure goes in the top left on the screen after we've done the departure and arrival page, and the airways are on the left and the corresponding waypoints are on the right hand side. So I guess this is technically considered an airway by the route page, although it's a whole procedure which is specified already, specified in the charts, but it's also specified in the flight management computer. It's already programmed in. So Upper November 57 takes us to Pole Hill, and that's another VOR station, and it's Upper November 5601 actually, which will take us to Ribel, and Ribel is the final waypoint on our route. So for the arrival procedure, you go back to departures and arrivals. Arrival for next to your arrival airport, it's ILS 12. It's runway 12 we want to arrive at Prestwick, and according to Active Sky, that's still the active runway up there. So ILS 12, and it's the Ribel to Papa arrival, and I know from testing this route out before, it's the Turnberry 1 transition into the ILS. Turnberry is a golf course in Scotland, near Prestwick, in Ayrshire I believe. So anyway, we can go back to our route. I've already checked the route before, but so once you've checked your route, you want to activate and then execute, and that sets it in stone. And I can just confirm the route. Our primary flight display and navigation display are alive, as you say. So you basically going to zoom out a bit, and we're going to select plan by right-clicking this knob here, which basically is all to do with the navigation display setting. And we want to go to legs, and that allows us to step for our flight plan. So according to our departure procedure chart, which I found online, the waypoints, these are kind of fixes before we get to Utava on the departure procedure, corresponding to DME, distance in nautical miles, from the Barkway VOR, which is not actually part of our route, but is very close to our route. And it basically just corresponds to distances from that VOR, which creates this particular standard instrument departure. So there's 4 of these fixes, as there are on the route. The first one has no... well, it does. 850 feet or above. We want to be at that waypoint. That's very doable. And then there's no altitude restriction at this waypoint, but we can see 3000A, which is 3000 or above. We want to be at this third point on our route, which corresponds to the chart here. And after that, the 4th point on our waypoint, the 4th fix on our standard instrument departure, our SID, is or rather has a restriction, a fixed restriction of 4,000 feet, no higher, no lower, and then we arrive at Utava. So, step through our route to double check functionality and coherency of it. Can be done as follows. takes us to Turnberry, then the departure procedure starts, and we intercept the localizer here. Fairly standard looking approach. The go around procedure is pre-programmed, and that looks good to me. So I will go back to just confirm with our chart, our standard arrival chart. So we get to Inipi, which is, well actually we want to be at flight level 260 at Aslib, which is corresponding to the first waypoint on our route. Then Inipi we want to be at flight level 200, want to be at 7,000 feet at Toxta, and Turnberry we want to be at 7,000 feet. All of these correspond to the chart. And then just checking the arrival procedure. Prestwick. It's the instrument approach chart for ILS runway 12. So we go from Turnberry, and the fix after Turnberry is 12 DME from Turnberry, and we want to be at 4,000 feet or above at that point. So that can be inserted into the FMC here. 4,000 feet or above at that point. And then it's Delta 342 November. Which we want 2,000 feet or above, which corresponds to the chart. And then it's just the course intercept, and then the fully configured point, I believe, where we want to be fully ready for landing. FF12, want to be at 2,000 feet for that. So, according to our route here, we want to be on a radial of 342 degrees from the Turnberry VOR. So that's just the angle in degrees, or the course that we're, the heading from a VOR that we're going to be following, which will take us to, again, this fix here, 4,000 feet or above, 2,000 feet or above, and then we turn, intercept the ILS. It's going to be a Category Delta arrival, because 747 is a Category Delta aircraft. It's the largest category of aircraft. And yeah, intercept the ILS. Everything looks good here. So there are just a few more things. Now the route is checked. Is confirmed into the flight plan. So let's go to performance initialization, and with a 0 fuel weight we can automatically punch that in of 220.1, 7.6 tons of reserve fuel. Calculated that previously. It's 53 cost index for BA. Flight level 400 we want to cruise at. And our everything else is fine there. So thrust limitations, so basically you sometimes want to, you don't want to take off with full power for, if you can help it, for some airports, especially ones with long runways. Stansted has a nice long runway, so we can derate a bit. We're going to derate 10%, so we're going to have 90% of our full power, and that's indicated here in the EPR section of our engine page. And climb 2 is basically just for noise abatement, for fuel efficiency. We want these derates. On the takeoff page, it's going to be a flap 10 departure. You can double click here to get our center of gravity and our trim setting for the elevator, which I will conveniently set right now. So it's 3.8. Positive 3.8 that is. So using my joystick I will trim it to very roughly 3.8. So we want this white bar to be at 3.8 on this scale here. Okay, so it seems that my joystick buttons are working. The indication on the sim is not. So I hope this will be okay. Flying without elevator trim, don't try it at home, don't try it in real life. But for the sake of this particular video, it's probably not too much of an issue. So let's get back to the FMC. We want to enter in our V1, our V-rotate, and our V2 speeds, and so as they're suggested to us. This is V1, it's basically the point where we are fully committed to taking off, cannot break from that point. We've got to be fully committed to take off at that speed. V-rotate is when we pull back on the, what's the yoke on a Boeing aircraft and pull into the air. Rotate into the air. V2, which is a speed basically that we need, the minimum speed for optimum gradient of climb. So anyway, that is the FMC completed. So now we can turn on the MFD. But first of all, we want to set V2, which is 147, into the IAS speed dial here on the MCP. So to turn on the MFD, which is the multifunctional display here, basically there's an array of buttons up here which allow us to choose what we want to display on it. So we want engine first, and our oil quantity is here. Looks pretty low. However, I believe it is fine for the sake of this video. It's simulator as well. And statistics, where we can see the hydraulic quantity. Looks just fine here. I believe both are fine. I don't think they're actually, well, would you look at that? But it looks good, so that's fine. So we want to come to the overhead display. At this point, you would request catering service. Well, you probably would have done that earlier, GSX, so we can do that now. Just use Gates Aviation. Doors will need to be opened, I can show you that. So the yaw damper switches are on. A lot of fault lights, but they're expected at this point. IRSs are fine. All the display selectors are normal. Crossfeed for fuel is as required. We can make sure the center fuel pumps are off. All fuel pumps are off at this moment in time. So to open the doors, as GSX wants, it's doors, then next page, and then it's the right entries 1 and 5 for catering at the moment. The doors opening up nicely there. EasyJet departing. Very nice. As we can see on the fuel page, diagram of all the tanks and their corresponding engines. The APU takes fuel from main 2. So fuel pumps for pump 2 can come on and the APU can be started by right clicking twice, turning the APU switch to on, then start, then it will go straight back to on, which is expected, and the APU will be starting up now. So the doors need closed, and that's great. So boarding can be initiated. So request boarding, and it's Ryanair doing British Airways boarding. The number of passengers expected on the flight is 355. It's just a ferry flight, but for the sake of what it says in our flight plan, we'll do 355. And the jetway is connected up to the aircraft, so the peeps can get on. So you can hear the APU and see that it has started up. And the APU generators are now available, implying the APU is ready. So we no longer need external power. So going to ground connections, we can release the ground power. And it should disappear. Just out here you can see the there we go, and the connection cables have disappeared too. Lovely. So yes, the APU is on. You can hear the passengers boarding. Window heats can now come on. The temperature is currently 1 degree, so anti-ice will remain off now, but definitely in the air we can look at that. The electric hydraulic pumps are off and engine hydraulic pumps are on as required. passenger oxygen is normal here. Just double check that. It's normal. So trim air is on. So the recirc fans are on. The packs can go to normal. Isolation valves are open. Engine bleed switches are on. So the pressurization panel, there's nothing wrong with that. And everything looks good. So boarding has completed. So just the lights remain, landing lights are off. Runway turn-off lights are off. That's fine. Engine mode selectors, they're fine. Anti-collision light is off. Strobe light. And the beacon is off. We'll get to the lights when we actually turn them on. And I believe that is us for this video. So I'd like to thank you guys very much for watching the video. The next one will feature pre-flight stuff, more final preparations, and then the actual engine start and taxi out will all be covered. So it's gonna be a big video. It's gonna be a fun video. Next one. I hope you learned something, at least something from me in this video. And I will see you all in the next one. Take care. Bye for now.